Black CEO denied service at bank. 10 minutes later, she fires the entire branch team. Before we dive into this story, hit the comments and tell us your city or country. Let's see how far this story reaches. If you like the video, please subscribe. She walked in wearing confidence and power, a tailored suit, briefcase in hand, a presence that turned heads. But to the bank staff, none of that mattered. They looked past her credentials, past her status, and saw only her skin. "We're closed," they said, even as the clock proved otherwise. She stood there stunned, watching as they served others without question. What they didn't know? She wasn't just a customer. She owned the company that owned their branch. What happens when the person you try to humiliate holds your future? Watch until the end. Danielle Rivers was a self-made powerhouse. The CEO of a national investment firm, she'd built her empire from scratch, facing obstacles, defying odds, and shattering every ceiling in her path. On the surface, her life was polished. Luxury cars, high-rise offices, a name that commanded respect in financial circles. But no matter how high she climbed, Danielle knew there were places where status couldn't shield her from judgment. That afternoon, she stopped by one of her company's partner banks to handle routine paperwork. Nothing unusual. The branch was familiar, one her firm had recently acquired in a quiet corporate deal. Danielle decided to go unannounced, dressed in her usual executive attire but without an entourage. She believed her presence would speak for itself. But as soon as she stepped inside, she felt it. Those eyes, the silence, the kind of welcome that wasn't welcome at all. Something was off. Very off. The moment Danielle stepped up to the counter, the atmosphere shifted. The teller avoided eye contact. A manager glanced over, whispered something, and then disappeared into a back room. Minutes passed. Other customers walked in, and without hesitation, they were greeted, helped, and sent on their way. But Danielle stood there, ignored, invisible. Finally, she asked politely if someone could assist her with document verification. The teller didn't even look up. "We're closed," she muttered, eyes glued to her screen. Danielle checked the time, 3:47 p.m. The branch closed at 5. "I see," Danielle said calmly, though her heart pounded. The humiliation stung, not because she needed help, but because she knew exactly what was happening. This wasn't about timing or policy. It was about perception, assumptions, racism. A black woman in a power suit wasn't enough to make her worthy of essential service in their eyes. She stepped aside, quietly pulling out her phone. She didn't yell, didn't argue. Instead, she made one call to her executive assistant. 10 minutes, that's all it took. Behind the counter, the staff laughed, thinking they had put her in her place, but their laughter would be short-lived. Because they hadn't just denied a customer, they'd denied their new boss. The assistant's voice on the line was steady. "They don't recognize you?" Danielle replied, "They will." What came next would send shockwaves through the entire branch. Just as another customer was being cheerfully helped, the front doors opened. 2 sharply dressed executives walked in, flanked by a regional director. All 3 headed straight for Danielle, addressing her with unmistakable respect. The laughter behind the counter died instantly. Confusion turned to panic as the staff began to realize who she was. One of them muttered, "That's her?" The manager stepped forward, nervous, but it was too late. Danielle turned to the regional director and spoke calmly, clearly. "This is the team that refused to serve me. No yelling, no drama, just truth and power." The director nodded grimly. "Understood." Within minutes, termination letters were printed, boxes were brought out, phones were confiscated. The staff's arrogance vanished. The branch fell silent. At that moment, their bias cost them everything. Danielle didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She walked out of that branch with her head high, not because of the power she wielded, but because of the dignity they tried to strip away. What happened that day wasn't just about her. It was about every black woman who's been dismissed, doubted, or disrespected despite her excellence. Danielle made a quiet choice. To let the consequences speak louder than her pain. That branch became a case study in corporate accountability. But more importantly, it became a mirror. Because racism doesn't always shout. It whispers in policy, smirks behind counters, hides behind "we're closed." How many more Daniils will it take before we start seeing people for who they are? Where are you watching this from? Drop your country and city in the comments. Let's talk about it.